My name is Phyllis and I am 24 years old. I've been married for a year to Ronald, who's 12 years older than me, and we are currently living with my in-laws. The person who brought Ronald and me together is Judy, Ronald's sister and my best friend from high school. Judy moved to my hometown for high school from the city. Since there were no dorms, she lived with relatives while attending school. She got along well with those relatives, but they had kids in age, so there was some tension. After becoming friends with me, Judy started visiting my house often because it was close to school. My family is a typical secondary income farming household. My dad works in the state capital, and my mom and grandparents run the farm. I have 2 older brothers and 1 younger brother, so we're a big family. Our home isn't fancy, but Judy always said, "Your house is so cozy. It feels warm every time I visit." She even helped with the harvest on weekends. My grandparents, parents, and brothers all welcomed her.
Judy is so kind and beautiful. Unlike you, Phyllis, I wish she were my real sister.
Just to annoy me. Even during long vacations like summer and winter breaks, Judy wouldn't go back to her parents' home. She'd make excuses like attending tutorial classes or having a part-time job. I'd say, "Don't you think your mom and dad want to see why not go home during the break?" But she seemed hesitant. My parents and older brothers told me not to pry, saying, "Judy must have her reasons."
Thank you for always taking care of Judy.
He'd say, handing over some sweets as a gift. Later, I went to the same junior college as Judy. Although we were on the same campus when she was a senior, we couldn't spend as much time together as we did in high school. During that time, I ran into Ronald at the coffee shop where I worked part-time, feeling lonely, living away from my big family. I found comfort in Ronald's kindness. When he asked me out, it looked like a dream. I immediately told Judy, who was surprised.
Hey, you and Rounds.
Yeah, I'm sorry for keeping it a secret. Ronald said he'd be embarrassed if you found out.
Oh, she's probably just shocked. She always looked up to me as her brother. So he's looked up to me as her brother.
I didn't think much of it after that. After graduating from junior college and getting a job, Ronald and I continued dating. He proposed to me in the spring of my 3rd year of employment. Some people thought we were rushing, but we'd been dating for 4 years. Ronald said, "I want to build a happy family with you," and I was swept away by emotion. But the happiness lasted only until our return trip from our honeymoon. As we rode in a taxi from the airport, I felt something was off. When I asked Ronald where we were stopping, he said, "Stopping or we're going home, of course," and took my hand.
Oh, but the taxi was heading to...
This is your parents' house, Ronald.
Before Ronald could answer, the front door opened, and his parents, Justina and Neville, greeted us with big smiles.
Welcome back. You must be tired. We've prepared a feast thinking you'd miss home-cooked meals.
Us inside telling us to put down our luggage and change clothes.
Upsing to a room they pointed to, I saw some of the furniture my parents had given us as a wedding gift. "What's going on? I thought we agreed on that condo near the station." Confused, I confronted Ronald, who nonchalantly said, "The condo, we did consider it. but when I went to get the guarantor seal for my parents, they suggested we live with them. We were to move in eventually, so I thought, why not start now? He showed no signs of guilt. Ignoring my stunned expression, he said, I'm hungry, let's go downstairs. Let's go downstairs. It's still confused. I followed him to the living room where a feast including steak was laid out. Ronald looked delighted.
Let's start with a toast. We're family now, even if it's by marriage. Let's start with a toast. We're family now, even if it's by marriage. We're starting tomorrow. You're the wife of this family, son. You'll be serving not just Ronald, but us parents as well. Keep that in mind.
She grinned as she said it. And so my life of living with my in-laws began just like a sneak attack. It was exactly as Justina had declared. A life of servitude to my in-laws and Ronald. First thing in the morning, I had to prepare breakfast by 6 a.m. for Neville, who had taken early retirement. Each enjoyed morning walks. The menu was extensive. Croissants and coffee for Neville, oatmeal and smoothies for Justina, and toast and tea for Ronald. But tea in between, I had to do laundry, clean, and prepare lunch for Neville. I had to wake up at 5 a.m. and didn't have a moment to sit down until I left for work. Because if I worked overtime, I'd get scolded. I'd skip lunch, sipping nutritional drinks at my desk, and rush home to clean up the dishes and glasses my in-laws had used and prepare dinner. However, I wasn't allowed to sit at the table until Ronald came home. It's unthinkable for a wife to eat alone. You should wait for Ronald. We won't allow you to let him eat alone.
That was a strict rule. Else, even if Ronald went to a bar with colleagues after work, I had to wait for him, whether it was 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. without eating or showering.
After 6 months of this life, I lost weight and was flagged for further tests during a health check. When I told Ronald, he said, "You were a bit chubby to begin with. It's good you lost weight." Showing no concern. The only person I could think to talk to was Judy, but she never came near this house, which should have been her home. Her room had even been turned into a storage space. I thought about messaging to her on WhatsApp, but she probably wouldn't want to hear bad things about her parents or brother. Besides, she had seemed somewhat cold during our wedding and reception, perhaps still resenting that I took her brother. Unable to send the half-written message, I just deleted it. Missing a year after getting married, I realized I was pregnant. By this point, I was physically and emotionally drained. Rather than feeling joy, I was overwhelmed with worry. Certainly, morning sickness changes the game. It might sound strange, but the worse the morning sickness got, the more I felt like it was in CS from the baby inside me. Like it was saying, "Come on, Mom, get it together." And with that thought, my resolve to protect this child at all costs grew stronger. To Tennessee, despite ongoing struggles with morning sickness and poor health, I decided to take an early leap from work, thanks to the advice from colleagues and my boss. No more dealing with rush hour, but Justina warned me, seriously, don't think you can slack off on housework just because you're pregnant. But what made it even harder was meal prep. The smell of cooking meat wasn't the only thing triggering my morning sickness. It was also the smell of the pickled cabbage that Neville insisted we always have in stock. I tried wearing a mask and other measures, but nothing helped. When I asked Ronald for support, he said, "Why are you telling me don't gag in front of the family? It's making me loose."
Why are you telling me don't gag in front of the family? It's making me lose my appetite.
But I couldn't control the gagging. Taking time off work didn't help. My morning sickness got worse, and I couldn't even eat properly due to poor health and fatigue. I still had to get nutrition for the baby's sake. I managed by making easily digestible foods like yogurt and soup, but even that seemed to annoy Justina.
What's with the attitude, trying to show off how weak you are?
She said, pushing leftover fried foods and spicy meat dishes on me. I tried to eat them, but I couldn't hold back the nausea and ended up vomiting. This only fueled Justina's anger, making everything worse. Touching as the days went by, the stress seemed to accumulate and my appearance changed drastically. My hair lost its shine and became tangled. Dark circles formed under my eyes and my complexion worsened. To prevent ticks and mold, as Neville insisted, I had to carry the bed mattress from my in-laws' bedroom to the wooden deck almost every day when the weather was good. This strained my back and knees.
What do you do? Act like an old person.
Seriously, you look like you've aged 20 years.
Just around this time, Ronald got busy with a big project and started spending more time away from home. He was the only one in my in-laws' house who would take my side. With Ronald gone more often, no one to turn to when I felt abdominal pain in the middle of the night, I had to endure it until morning. I could finally make an appointment at my maternity clinic, but even that was stopped by Justina. Apparently, she'd been criticized for not taking good care of me, saying I looked skeletal from going to the hospital so much. From then on, she forbade me from going to the clinic unless she accompanied me.
Because of my incompetent daughter-in-law. People are gossiping that I'm mistreating you. I'm too embarrassed to even go out.
When she's married, she's not your daughter anymore. Don't interfere.
She then took my phone, deleted WhatsApp, and blocked almost all my contacts. She warned,
Who knows what you might say about us if you keep these unnecessary connections.
If you unblock them, you'll regret it.
She warned. But one day, during a prenatal checkup that Justina reluctantly accompanied me to, my weight and blood pressure readings were so bad that the doctor strongly advised overnight hospitalization.
If you neglect the mother's health, the safe delivery is out of the question. Either she stays overnight for thorough testing, or we can't assist with the delivery.
Thanks to the doctor's firm stance, I was able to spend a peaceful night in the hospital bed, having meals made for me, lying in a bed without snide comments. Every moment of it was a blessing. But that dreamlike time was short-lived. The next morning, my in-laws came to the hospital as soon as they heard the test results were out, ignoring the doctor and midwife's advice about improving my nutrition and accumulated fatigue. They took me back home.
Saying, what a quack doctor, pregnancy isn't a disease. There's no need for all this fuss.
Exactly, we don't need a doctor like that.
They then ordered me to catch up on all the housework. Once that was done, they told me to call the hospital and say,
They'll be coming in more because I won't be coming in anymore because I'm going back to my parents' house to give birth.
When I heard that, I couldn't help but feel joy and asked, "Really? I can go back to my parents' house?"
Really, I can go back to my parents' house?
But when I saw them smirking and saying, "Of course not, we can call an ambulance if needed," I felt like the floor tilted beneath me. However, considering the baby, I couldn't agree to stop the prenatal checkups. I waited for Ronald to come home and begged him to talk to his parents. But when he came home drunk, he said, But when I saw them smirking and saying, "Of course not, we can call an ambulance if needed," I felt like the floor tilted beneath me. However, considering the baby, I couldn't agree to stop the prenatal checkups. I waited for Ronald to come home and begged him to talk to his parents. But when he came home drunk, he said, "What?" The next morning, I woke up from a short sleep and noticed something was terribly wrong. It should be dim in the early morning, but even the light through the curtains was blinding. I couldn't. It shouldn't be this bright in the early morning. Even the light through the curtains was blinding. I couldn't keep my eyes open. Even when I got used to the brightness, my eyelids twitched and my vision was foggy. Even when I got used to the brightness, my eyelids twitched and my vision was foggy. I groped my way downstairs to find the first aid kit and hurriedly applied eye drops. But nothing changed. When I cautiously checked each eye, I realized I couldn't see anything with my right eye, as if I had gone blind. The moment I screamed in terror, my hand hit a vase, knocking it over and shattering it with a loud crash.
Who's gonna believe such a lie? You're not to lie. You're not getting any sympathy here.
Who on earth are you thinking making noise this early? Heads are up. This vase was expensive. What have you done, you fairy?
Yes, clean up the broken vase and keep the house tidy.
They said and left through the front door with a cheerful Neville. I heard a car right away. They must have called a taxi.
They really don't care about me or the baby in my belly.
As soon as I thought that, tears started flowing uncontrollably. I don't know how long I sat there crying. The shaking stopped, perhaps because I had gotten cold, but now I was losing sensation from the tips of my hands and feet. I can't just sit here crying. I need to change clothes. But with my blurred vision, I couldn't judge distance as well and was afraid to step on the shards of the broken vase. Then the doorbell rang repeatedly, followed by the sound of someone turning the doorknob.
Climp!
As I wondered, I heard the door open and multiple footsteps approaching. 5 days had passed since Ronald and the others left for golfing and their trip. When I thought they should be coming back soon. My phone started vibrating non-stop with incoming calls. I ignored it for a while, but it got annoying, so I finally answered. I ignored it for a while, but it got annoying, so I finally answered.
Yes, what is it?
So, I mean, like, what is it now? As he started their show, like, Clench names, and hasn't prepared any meals prep. Me except the...
Why should I have to prepare meals?
At was kan already to dance. When I shot back, Ronald went silent for a moment, surprised. Then he snapped, "He's just get back here now. We're tired from our trip."
Why should I have to take care of you just because you're tired from your trip?
When I retorted again, this time my in-laws, who seemed to have snatched the phone from Ronald, took turns yelling.
Her cheeky woman.
Stop talking back and get back here now.
Just then, someone who had been listening to Ronald and his parents' tirades through the speakerphone on my end spoke up.
Buzz, could y'all calm down? If you have something to say it calmly.
Is that you, Judy?
Yes, it is. Seems like you at least remember your sister's voice.
But the day Ronald and the others left, the person who had come to visit was Judy. She had entered the living room, leading a group that included a doctor from the maternity clinic and several police officers.
Pull yourself together, Phyllis. We're taking you to the hospital right now.
The moment I heard Judy's voice and felt her warm hand on my back, my consciousness faded.
Judy, was that not a dream?
Hearing Judy mock them like that, Ronald and his parents raised their voices as if their blood was boiling.
How dare you? You never even visited us. And now you're sticking your nose in our business.
That's right, you ungrateful woman. Just bring her here now. We need to straighten her out.
Well, Phyllis is in a hospital on bed rest, so she can't go anywhere. And from now on, she won't be visiting your home either.
You have no right to decide that for her.
I'm her sister and have every right. I'm tired of your abuse. You won't be bothering us anymore.
So what's the meaning? What's obviously leading to a divorce?
She then went on to explain that when they rescued me, they had to break the front door lock and had called the police to witness it. After I was rushed to the hospital, the maternity clinic doctor who had accompanied Judy testified to the police about the dangerous conditions I was living under.
I've already convinced Phyllis to file a complaint. Maybe instead of worrying about your runaway wife, you should worry about your own future.
She chuckled. After waking up in the hospital, Judy told me everything. Turns out, she wasn't Justina's child, but was born from an affair Neville had. He took her in when she was young.
He only took me in because he wanted to look good, saying, "How noble, taking in a child from an affair," but I was treated horribly at home. That's why I went to a high school far away. Absdale,
But what about Ronald visiting you so often?
and he's like his mother, good at keeping up appearances. He wanted to sell the image of a caring brother to relatives while venting his stress by constantly making snide remarks to me.
She'd been shocked when Ronald and I started dating and got married, but thought maybe he had changed and wanted to support us from a distance. Thought visiting would mean facing her parents, and she couldn't bring herself to do it. By the time she realized, she couldn't even send me a WhatsApp message and thought I had blocked her. She never suspected it was the work of my in-laws.
I saw as it is. I never thought they could be that trashy. I guess I was naive too, she said.
But then, on the night before the day I was abandoned, she received unexpected contact from someone.
The doctor at that maternity clinic is actually an old friend of mine. We've known each other since preschool all the way through junior high. Out of the blue, she sent me a WhatsApp message saying, "Your sister-in-law is in serious trouble if things keep going like this."
At people, I had never mentioned anything about this, but it seems that Doctor had always been suspicious about how my in-laws were treating me. Her suspicions were confirmed during that forced discharge incident. She reached out to Judy, another childhood friend, to warn her about my situation and to keep me safe. It was unexpected, but it made sense. I had lost all contact, and I started to think that maybe my in-laws and Ronald could actually do something terrible. So, the next morning, she decided to visit my in-laws for the first time in years. Coincidentally, the doctor was off that day and agreed to go with her. But no matter how many times they rang the doorbell, there was no answer. Finally, they looked through the window and saw me collapsed on the floor. They immediately called the police and also called a 24-hour locksmith. After being rushed to the hospital, I started treatment and, on Judy's advice, contacted my parents and brothers. Just my family, who'd been worried about my sudden lack of communication, were outraged. They said, "We knew something was off, but we had no idea it was this bad." After discussing it with Judy, they helped me move all my belongings out of my in-laws' house. "We'll hire a lawyer, so don't worry about the money," they assured me.
We didn't mean for this to happen.
It's for temple, Apusinj. Just forgive us this one mistake.
Peace out for some, we'll pay you, just let this go quietly.
But now, with the support of Judy and my family, Ronald and his parents are no longer a threat to me. If they're harmful to my unborn baby, then they need to be removed from our lives.
All I want is a divorce, compensation, child support for the baby that's coming, and a lump sum payment for my medical bills. If any of these things are missing, I'll take further action.
With that, I turned off my phone and exchanged smiles with Judy. After that, I received proper medical treatment and quickly regained my health. At the same time, the stress-related eye issues I had been experiencing began to improve. 4 months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Thanks to Judy and a lawyer my family hired, the divorce proceedings with Ronald went smoothly. I received financial compensation, and I cut ties with my in-laws. Judy also decided to sever her relationship with them. She made an agreement with my former in-laws to forgo any inheritance in exchange for not having to take care of them in their old age. According to Judy, Ronald had to use most of his retirement fund to make the lump sum payment to me. On top of that, rumors about the whole ordeal spread to his workplace, making him uncomfortable. Enough to resign, or to find another job, Ronald and his parents are now scraping by on their pensions. Judy said, in the end, they're only leaving behind a legacy of negativity. During my rescue, neighbors had gathered as if watching a spectacle. Now they're saying things like, that family made their daughter-in-law have a mental breakdown. And, as scary, they've become almost reclusive due to the constant gossip. On the other hand, I've returned to my hometown with my newborn child. With the help of my parents and siblings, I'm fully committed to raising my child every day. My child grows up to be genuinely strong, never forgetting to be grateful and compassionate to those around him.